My toxic trait is finding cash in my jean or coat pocket and spending it as if it was free money. If it doesn't affect the imaginary number that I see in my bank account, it's not real money to me, so it's pretty much monopoly money. Hi, my name is Rinahra, and I am a frugal degenerate. One of my favorite hobbies is finding new ways to save money without really sacrificing my quality of life. With the rising costs of everything, it felt like it was super appropriate to make a video on 5 ways to save money during these unprecedented times. Tell me if it's just me, but I feel like the word unprecedented triggers my fight or flight because I'm so over hearing that word. Anyways, number 1. Phone upgrades. Back in the day, the phone upgrade culture has always been in 2-year periods because every 2 years you'd have to sign a new 2-year contract with whatever major phone carrier you had at the time, and you would be able to get good deals on phones. Even though the days of 2-year contracts are pretty much over, it still feels like my subconscious is always like, hey, it's been 2 years, it's time to get a brand new phone, even though there's nothing wrong with my current phone. And new phones nowadays aren't that much better than their predecessors. Of course, once every couple years, there might be a new feature that might make it worth upgrading, but for the most part, that doesn't happen every year. Where's the spice? Where's the innovation? But who am I to judge when I still think Wi-Fi and microwaves are the work of black magic, regardless of how many times they're explained to me? For me personally, I bought my iPhone used, and it's about to turn 3 years old. In my eyes, there's really nothing wrong with my current phone. I can still text, I can still call, I can still spend 7 hours and 13 minutes on TikTok every day. So there's really no need for me to upgrade in the nearby future, at least. Unless my phone suddenly blows up for whatever reason. Number 2, buying in bulk. Now, this might sound a little counterintuitive because buying in bulk is typically a suggestion you would hear when you're trying to save money rather than spend money. But hear me out. The value is only good if you're able to take full advantage of it. Now, don't get me wrong, I am a Costco simp. I love Costco like any other middle-aged mom with 3 kids in a minivan. Except the difference is I live in a teeny tiny apartment with 1 roommate. Anything that is perishable, whether it be produce, bakery items, dairy products, etc., out of the question. Since there's just so much product, they never end up being finished before they go bad, moldy, or stale, so that money is pretty much being thrown away. Even for non-perishables and staples, there's only a small handful of non-perishables that I eat often enough where I can justify making space in my teeny tiny pantry for a bulk-size version of it. And not even the fan favorite big box of Ghirardelli brownie mix makes the cut. Number 3. Eating out-ish. Now let me break it down into subcategories because this is kind of a loaded one. So A, food delivery apps. I feel like with the invention of food delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash, it is disgustingly easy to order food to your doorstep with just a couple taps. Kind of like playing a game on your phone, except you're really just playing games with your bank account. And this convenience is reflected with all of those premium fees that you see tacked on to every meal order. In my experience, these fees end up adding up to a whole nother meal if I were to go to the same restaurant and just dine in or order a pickup. And plus at that point, I would know all of the money would go to the restaurant or the people working at the restaurant, which is really good for the economy.
It'll be good for the economy.
B, drinks with every meal. Even non-alcoholic drinks are marked up at restaurants, and if you ask me, there's really nothing special about having a Coke at a restaurant compared to having a Coke at home. Unless you're at McDonald's, because their Coke hits different and it might actually be worth it buying a Coke there. At least in the United States, water is typically free in most restaurants, and let's be real, most of us should be drinking a lot more water anyway, so consider this a reminder to take a swig of water. C, leftovers are life. As much as people joke around about this, American portion sizes are one of the few reason why I'm proud to be an American. I'm the type of person to have a hard time finishing a meal, which is actually a good thing because that means I get to treat future me to a scrumdiddlyumptious meal at another time. And if I'm spending good money on a meal, I'm gonna do what I can to maximize the value I get from that meal. And you wanna know what's crazy? Around 40% of people don't partake in the idea of leftovers, whether it be because of the social stigma behind it or for whatever personal reason. To that, I'm gonna say I respectfully disagree with 40% of all people. However, an alternative could be splitting an appetizer or a meal with a friend instead. And finally, D, limit eating out. Of course, not going to restaurants entirely is way better on the bank account. However, I see eating good food, especially at restaurants, one of the few joys in life. And one of the joys that are more financially accessible than all of the others. The average person eats out 4 times a week, which doesn't sound super offensive, but it can add up super quickly. I think it gets a bit dangerous when it reaches a point where someone eats out for most meals of the week and they see eating out as an expectation rather than a treat. If I want to treat myself to a nice meal, whether it's because I had a craving or because I didn't want to cook that day, I'll do it. Typically, this will be around once or twice a week, but when I go out, I'll make sure to be looking at the menu prices because only psychopaths don't, and I'll order myself a nice meal. If you're enjoying this video so far, why don't you consider giving this video a big thumbs up? I would really appreciate it because it helps out with the YouTube algorithm, and plus, it's free, so you really have nothing to lose. Anyways, on with the next method. My next method would be buying in-season produce. I'm sure there's a lot of guides online on what produce are in season, but I feel like the easiest way to figure that out is to just go to the local grocery store and just see what's on sale there. If something is on sale, that typically means there's a surplus, and if there's a surplus, that means they're growing a lot of that fruit or veggie in season. And this is where the flexibility comes in, by being okay with eating certain fruits and vegetables during certain times of the year. And my last method for you is being smart with hobbies. Whenever I discover a new hobby, I get fixated on that hobby. Like, I would be thinking day in and day out about this potential hobby. I would obsessively watch YouTube videos on how to get started with this hobby, reading blogs, posts, and forums on everything regarding this hobby, and I would also do extensive research to understand what tools and materials are best for this hobby. The issue is, hobbies can get really expensive, and if I'm looking for the best materials and tools to get started, they're typically not the most affordable, let alone beginner friendly. So what ends up happening is I would buy all of the tools for this hobby, and then I would find myself making excuses like I don't have any time to start this hobby, or I would start the hobby and realize that I don't actually like the hobby, and I would give up on it pretty much entirely. So hear me out. Back in like 2020, I decided that I wanted to get into designing stickers and making them and then selling them on a little Etsy shop, because I swear everyone's moms, dads, cats, frogs were doing it, and I just wanted to get in on the action, you know? It was a really saturated market at the time, so that should have been my telltale sign, but that did not stop me from dropping like $600 on an iPad, a pencil, a popular drawing software that all of the other drawers were using. And I got all of this just to get started on a hobby like any rational person. Now, this is probably where my ego got the best of me, but I thought I was going to be an amazing drawer. Like, the moment the pencil tip touched the iPad screen, I was going to be able to draw some characters, come out with concepts, draw anime eyes perfectly on the first time. Lo and behold, that did not happen. I was actually hot fire garbage, and I was like, you know what? This is just not for me. And I didn't want to get better at it. And I just convinced myself that, you know what? That was just not my thing. That was not my hobby, and I wasn't going to pursue it. And thank goodness I stopped there, and I didn't pick up like one of those Cricut or Cricut machines that are used for printing stickers, and I didn't buy any packaging material because that probably would have went to waste. And I think the craziest thing is knowing that I would have saved hundreds of dollars if I decided that I was going to pick up a piece of paper and a pen and just start drawing. but I never did that. Really what I'm trying to say is I find myself gravitating towards hobbies that I pretty much spend the bare minimum on, and then I slowly build up the collection for that hobby rather than just balling out on the hobby right from the get-go. Because if I'm spending a lot of money on a hobby, then I feel like there's a lot of pressure to actually continue that hobby because of the financial investment that was put towards it immediately, and that really just sucks out all of the fun of a hobby. Maybe that's just me, I don't know. Alright, and that pretty much rounds out all I had for you in this video. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you consider giving this video a big thumbs up? I would really appreciate it because it would help out with the YouTube algorithm by pushing out my content to a bigger audience. And consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this in the future. Also, drop a comment down below letting me know what non-traditional ways you like to save money. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyways, thanks for watching. Toodles!